Greetings, my brothers and sisters, and welcome to another fabulous week and what I'm coining Master Path May. And this week, the Master Path is to protect your new sprouts of manifestation, to stand up for your self-worth, and to keep your old karmic weeds from getting in the way. From my smartphone to yours, keep streaming for your weekly Namaste Today. Welcome to Namaste Today, the perfect setup for a life of play. I'm your host and the Sensei to serious joy, Christopher Witecki. Welcome back, my earthly neighbor. Namaste. Well, it is my favorite month of the year, May, and it's my favorite week in May. It's my birthday period. My birthday is this week, and I have to tell you, as a soul, I'm very proud of the day that I chose because the week of my birthday is the week when we are sprouting a new reality. That's what Taurus is. Taurus is our ability to make ideas into actual material things, our ability to produce, our ability to manifest, our ability to make money, all these types of things. And that's what we came down to do, I think. We came down to be creative and see it physicalized, see it become real. So this week, I think we're doing some fun stuff. We already planted seeds last week to the new reality. This week, what we're doing is seeing those seeds up to the sprout status. And I believe you will start to see sprouts of your manifestation by the end of the week. But the real trigger of the week is the fact that old karmic weeds could come up and sort of choke the life out of what you're trying to create. So it's a bit of a sophisticated spiritual posture this week. And in our segment, Soul Collective, I'm going to talk about where the collective consciousness is and give you tips for how to position yourself. Then later in our tea time, I want to talk for all 12 signs about what it is that they are sprouting, and I want to warn you where the weeds may lie. But first, let's take a look at the week's moods and your zodiac weather. This zodiac weather is from Monday, May 7th to Friday, May 11th, 2018. Looking at your 5-day moodcast, it's kind of an up and down week. We start sunny, go cloudy, and then we're sunny again. Let's drill down. On Monday, it's sunny and super clear. Step 17 rules the day, paving the way for a commitment, and the moon in Aquarius allows you to detach. On Tuesday, it's sunny and active. Step 18 rules the day. It is time to move forward with your sprouts and see what comes. On Wednesday, it's cloudy, overcast, and ascending. Step 19 rules the day, which means it's time to hold space, and the moon in Pisces might bring up old karma. On Thursday, it's cloudy, overcast, and super sensitive. Step 20 rules the day, and the moon crossing Neptune asks for forgiveness. But then on Friday, it's sunny and exploring. Step 21 rules the day, and the moon in Aries feels like spring. In the upcoming week, what we're really doing is seeing our sprouts come up from the ground, but we're also protecting from the weeds. In my next segment, Soul Collective, I'm going to talk about the collective conscious and what we're doing. Take it and sneak peek at this upcoming week. This week, the Soul Collective is nurturing sprouts. And that's my cute little metaphor for how I look at manifestation. I really think manifestation is kind of like a plant. And I think the universe and Mother Earth has given us a wonderful little diagram of how consciousness works. It begins with a seed. You have to plant that seed in loving soil. It takes warmth, water, sun, fertilizer, and all these different things put into this seed, and eventually it will sprout to a plant, and then eventually that plant will sprout to a flower, and then that will create fruit. To me, that is basically the same process with manifestation. Now, last week, because we're in Taurus, we're doing our planting. This is our manifestation planting season. And the Soul Collective, really everyone, I think, and you could say it's tied to the seasons, and I agree, it is tied to the seasons in the Northern Hemisphere. As May comes and the sun's in Taurus, what we're thinking about is what we're going to plant. And it's not just what we're going to plant for crops, it's what we want to achieve this year. Psychologically, it's kind of like, oh, the summer's coming. I haven't done anything yet. 2018 is almost half over. I think some of our conscious is like that, and we're like, we need to get going on those plans, right? Whatever that happens to be. So collectively, we're all in that space. Last week, what we did was plant seeds. In other words, we were kind of sorting our seeds the first week of Taurus, like what do I think is valuable, what do I not think is valuable, what crops do I want to shut off and no longer support this year. Then last week it was like, okay, let's put these, see if these stick, let's see if these germinate. And I think we were planting certain seeds. And you're probably playing this out in very, very simple, practical, down-to-earth terms for you. For instance, you might planting a seed of like, oh, maybe I can get a job there. Maybe I can meet someone in this singles club. Maybe I can, that's planting seeds where you have a hunch and you have a sense it's what your heart wants, but also you're not quite sure if co-creation, co-creator and co-creation is going to sprout your seeds, right? So this is the week where we start to see sprouts or not sprouts. So we start to see the beginning of that seed germinating now and starting to grow, which means there will be details that now come back. Like, oh, they do want to interview for the job. Oh, that singles club is inviting new members. You know, like, so you start to get, you know, some feedback from it. And it's this feedback stage that's really kind of critical as to whether or not something will sprout. And that's what I think is kind of going on this week for everyone, is not letting their old self get in the way of this new sprout. That's really the dynamic goal for the week. Not letting yourself get in the way. Not letting yourself stomp on your new soul garden and snuff it out. Now, one of the big themes of this week has to do with the way we think. Mercury is still in Aries. It came out of the shadow period last week. That meant that we were now ready to think forward from the shadow period on. Like, okay, I see the way I need to think. I see the way I need to focus. And this week it's like, okay, well, let's do it. Let's think according to the winged ego. Let's think in terms of win-win strategy. Let's think in terms of supporting ourselves before we commit to others. All these new winged ego kind of philosophies, our mind now has to be in gear with this, and we can't let our old ego get in the way. The old ego be like, oh, every year I plant crops. It never turns out. Like, that's the old ego. I think we have stepped away from the old ego, but I have to say, even in my experience, my mind is still talking the old stuff. Like, I've noticed, at least up until this tape day, like still saying the old stuff. I'm still having to like correct it according to the new thing. So I think this week, the Mercury starts to head for Uranus at step 29, which is basically the Grand Master step of Aries, which is us being tested as to whether or not we can keep this winged ego, if it's going to be able to fly, basically. And so this week, your mind is slowly, as Mercury approaches Uranus, your mind is getting closer and closer to maybe like seeing the light, for one, like seeing the light of how you need to behave, seeing the light of what actions need to be taken, seeing the light of understanding mentally what this new winged ego means, understanding the language you have to say to yourself to support this new winged ego. So the mind this whole week is kind of getting on the ball. And so the mind is one area that could accidentally stomp on your new sprout. So you have to kind of be conscious of your mind, keep it on track for the winged ego. And Mercury literally crosses Uranus Saturday, Sunday. So at the end of the week, we literally have a Halamia moment. Halamia, I get it, right? Like, and for some people, it may be bad news. You know, it kind of depends on how the rest of you have been working. The other aspect, I think, that can haunt us this week, and I call these our karmic weeds, is due to the moon. Now, the moon is our emotion, and in this metaphor, in this little example here, emotion would be watering your soul garden, you know, adding water, adding emotional nurturing, right? We start the week with the moon in Aquarius for Monday and Tuesday, so that means kind of emotionally, we're probably going to forget to water. Okay, like, so when the moon's in Aquarius, we kind of detach a bit and we just kind of see the big picture. So I think Monday and Tuesday, you want to try to be conscious of what your emotions, you know, where they need to be, the emotional tone that you need to hold if you want to grow something new in your life. Then the moon moves into Pisces Wednesday, Thursday, and these are the two cloudy days. And the moon crosses Neptune on Thursday. What that basically means is the moon moves into Pisces, and we go from a dry season to now, you know, a huge tsunami. Like, not really, just a heavy rain, let's put it that way. So we're going to feel very emotional in the middle of the week, very sensitive in the middle of the week. And the moon crosses Neptune is in Pisces, which means we are feeling our karma. So much like I had said with the mind, thinking on the old ego, thinking like, oh, I hope this isn't like every year where I fail. emotionally, we have to kind of swim through that as well. I think when the moon crosses Neptune, that's basically a moment where you'll have to emotionally forgive yourself and let the old feelings go, like not give them any importance, not give them a lot of space and time unless they need nurturing. But overall, compassion and gratitude and letting it go. So I feel like old feelings will come up in the middle of the week that will kind of haunt you a bit. And that's what I liken to your karmic weeds. They could come in and choke the life out of these new sprouts you're trying to raise, this new manifestation you're trying to raise. So you have to be mindful of your feelings. And then at the end of the week, the moon then moves into Aries. And so this whole winged ego thing, we emotionally have to feel through as well. So Mercury the whole week has been building up to Uranus, where the big holy shift moment. The moon is doing the exact same thing. The moon actually crosses Uranus with Mercury on Sunday. So what that means is emotionally you kind of get in a sand trap, then you kind of get back on your horse. Then as the weekend progresses, you've got to emotionally encourage yourself to keep fighting the good fight, you know what I mean, and not give up. And I don't think it'll feel traumatic, but I think it'll feel heavy. And I think, because we're being called to be stronger, our feelings will be like, I don't wanna. You know what I mean? And it's like, you have to, is what I say to myself. So this week again, it's like your feelings could thwart your fertility, and basically what happens is when we're growing new consciousness, it's like a plant. Every day needs sunlight, every day needs water, every day needs your love, non-judgment, holding space, keeping it safe. And so if we let this old stuff get in the way, it's going to end up feeding our soul garden less. We're going to end up not growing as much or growing what we want to manifest. The other interesting thing about this week is we have 2 yads. Okay, so a yad is when God is giving us the finger. That's what I always say. God's going, look at this. Like literally it's an isosceles triangle pointing to something. And as an astrologer, I literally, think that we're being directed as to what's important. The first yad's on Monday and it points to Jupiter at step 18 Scorpio. And what that means is, as you start the week, you got to be really clear on where the boundaries are, where the most healthy boundaries are. And you have to be clear where the most healthy boundaries are Monday, Tuesday, in particular, with the moon in Aquarius, which means you're kind of numb. You can't quite feel where the boundaries are. So there's kind of an oil slick, I guess, on Monday. You want to be really clear on what your space issues are. And this probably means that your space is changing. So you may transplant your manifestations like, okay, the idea of a job is correct, but not there. Like you might completely realize that whatever you're going for was toxic, whatever you're going for didn't have appropriate boundaries, whatever you were going for wasn't safe, or whatever you're going for, you didn't take the time to make sure it's safe. You didn't take the time to make sure that you'll be comfortable and feel good. You were just all job crazy and went for it without thinking. So Monday, you really want to make sure that the boundaries are correct. Then the second yod happens Thursday and Friday with Venus, okay? And Venus is in Gemini, which Venus is what are we opening up to? What are we opening up to? In astrology, we're always opening up and closing down to something at the same time. Like we're always doing that. It's the breathing of the universe. So what we're opening up to this week are new ideas. Venus is in Gemini. So what's important this week is to stay very open-minded. You've been stuck in a rut since the day you were born. If your mind knew the answer, you would never been stuck in a rut. Okay, so the mind is a smartass. It tends to think it knows everything. And Venus in Gemini says, oh, no, you don't. You have never been in this place before. You don't know what it's like. You need to open up to different ideas. And from a simple application, that just means keep your mind open. But God Universe gives us a yod for 2 days to that Venus. Those days, again, are Thursday and Friday. And Pluto and Jupiter are the other 2 parts of the yod. So it's like what the universe is saying is you need to think differently based on your boundaries, basically. Based on your boundaries and your boundary issues, you need to think differently. And that's kind of underscored or highlighted by God Universe on Thursday and Friday. So it's kind of it's kind of like we're getting on our bike and trying to ride our bike for the first time. It's going to feel that way. Be compassionate to yourself, I think, through the process. And Mars is going to reach step 28 by the end of the week, which means through all of this kind of cultivating and weeding our soul garden and nurturing and whatnot, we're manifesting our new way of being in control. So the new control method is to be this nurturing of our conscious reality, not worrying about the other plants in the soul garden, not worrying about other people, but just focusing on ourselves. There's something about that, says Mars at step 28, Capricorn. At the same time, Moon, Mercury, and Uranus are all conjoined in Aries. So the universe is saying this is how you control things, by nurturing your soul garden and by feeling and thinking according to the winged ego, the higher approach, the win-win, the fight or flight dead, the thrival winning. Okay, so the thrival ego versus the survival ego. Now, with that said, it's going to be, I think, just really an interesting week of sprouts. And I think if you follow through, you're going to see little sprouts come up from the ground by the weekend. Once the sun hits step 22 on Saturday, you should see some little sprout come through your dirt, which means you will start to see that you got a job interview or you've got your first, dating club event, you know what I mean, or whatever it is you're doing. You'll probably see the first real tangible result. Now, that said, I think for all the 12 signs, the key of the week is understanding where you're releasing karmic weeds and understanding where you're planting new ones. So go steep yourself some tea, and let's have our weekly tea time. Hello, my friend, and welcome to our tea time. Today's tea time topic is nurturing new and releasing old. This is a powerful week. I'm super excited, mostly because this is the first week where I think our lives can actually make some progress, seriously. And this is the week where every year we do our planting. Like I said in the open of the show, like this is the time of year when we plant new ideas. But this year, what I'm excited about is that we have the potential for super crops, okay? And what do I mean by that? Well, looking at the galactic clock and all the clock hands, which to me are the planets, they're all just different clock hands. It just turns out the galactic clock has 12 hands. But looking at that, this particular planting season is super fertile for a couple of reasons. One reason is we just spent 5 months basically eliminating some of our soul garden issues, our karmic issues that get in the way, our ego issues that get in the way, how we're aiming for the wrong thing in the first place, and our control issues that get in the way. So far this year, all we have done is clear out our garden, weed it, get it ready so that we can plant. Now, that's part of what sets up for some super manifestation is this is the first year in a long time that we are pretty clean, that we have a fresh start, we have a new opportunity, we have shed off a lot of our shadow stuff, which just brings more light and more possibilities. So a lot of us lost a lot of our manifestation yield due to personal dis-ease. So our own dis-ease destroyed our crops year after year, or at least a percentage of our crop, or at least we couldn't yield the highest that we wanted to yield. So this is, you can look at this from the fact that Uranus just is wrapping up its Aries transit. That's 7 or 8 years. That's 7 years, I believe. Chiron is wrapping up its Pisces transit. That's an 8-year transit. So it's like you can see these are long-term cleaning out our soul garden. We're finally done. So we have the potential to have super crops this year because we have killed off the things that kill off our crops. The other side is the sunshine, okay? What do I mean by sunshine? The North Node in Leo. The North Node in Leo, North Node basically is kind of where God is being the stage director. So it's kind of like you have all these things on the galactic clock, and the North Node is like, do this. It basically says, this is what it all comes down to. This is what it's all about. At the end of the day, this is what's happening. This is the control point. And it's embedded in Leo. Now, it's been in Leo for the first time for 18 years. The last time it was in Leo was 98 to 2000. That was the last time the universe said, go for your heart, go for your dreams. And I remember that time. It was a lot more optimistic than this time, perhaps because I was naive. You know what I mean? But I remember it was the Y2K, and it's a new millennium. And so there was a lot of excitement that last time the North Node was in Leo. But I can't say that I got the crops I wanted over the last 18 years. Well, that's probably because my crops were riddled with disease. Yours probably were too. Now the North Node is back in Leo, and this time we are rid of all of this stuff that kills off our soul guard and mutes our manifestation and takes our abundance down to like just barely survival sort of level. So we have this amazing moment, in my opinion, maybe one of the best moments since I've been an adult, to be honest, where you can plant something. The universe is giving tons of sunshine, North Node in Leo, and the rest of you has been warned not to interfere, which is huge. So we have a real, you could say, second chance, or you could say the first real chance overall. Now, adding some fertilizer to whatever you plant, we have a solar eclipse in July that's in Cancer at step 20. That's basically the universe watering this intention with tons of emotional energy, which will yield big crops. That's what, you need a lot of emotion, you need a lot of passion. Some people will go a little crazy in July because it's too much passion, but for those who have irrigated our soul garden, we will welcome that rain. It will just come through and feed what we're trying to grow. The other is a solar eclipse in Leo. We have 3 solar eclipses this year. A solar eclipse in Leo at step 18 in August, and that's kind of like a supercharge of love and sunshine. And it's basically the follow-up of last year's Great American Solar Eclipse. So the solar eclipse was kind of like the huge planting of the golden egg. And I think this next August, we could theoretically harvest what we wanted, what our heart intended 1 year prior. We're going to see that come into bloom. So with that said, it's a very, very fertile year. I want to make sure that if you're watching my show, that you are clear on how to plant and where to irrigate and where to keep your old karmic self from interfering. And that's basically my concern this week. This week you are planting seeds of something you want to grow. Whatever I say or bring up in this particular broadcast, those parts of your life may be absolutely growing, but it might be small little things. And you may have another big thing that's not in those 2 categories. And I want to say, you can go and plant any idea you want right now, but make sure you cover the 2 areas that I mentioned today so that you don't end up corrupting these other kind of like, what's the word, when you splint off a plant, transplants of your soul garden. And I'm going to talk about, for all 12 signs, where they're planting seeds, and then I'm going to talk about where you're going to have old karmic feelings come up in the middle of the week. Old feelings are going to kind of haunt you. And this is because if we don't clear out our water, which is our emotional matrix, if we don't clear out our water, it'll poison what we're growing next. So we don't catch the poison until the moon hits in Pisces. We don't realize for the whole month. So this is the one time in the month where you will detect that you have some nasty fertilizer, Monsanto fertilizer in your water, and you need to clear it out so that it doesn't end up hurting your plant. So, and as always, I'm going to put on the side here the 12 signs, and I recommend you listen to your sun sign and your rising sign. Starting with the go-getters, Aries. Aries are planting new seeds of production. So what they're planting is they're building the factory. They're planting the means to plant forever. It's kind of like the old joke with a genie. If you get 3 wishes, the first wish should be for more wishes. Okay, so you're kind of setting up for your revenue stream, setting up for your productivity, setting up your factory, setting up your artist loft, setting things in motion. That is really what you're planting and making sure. Now, you literally have to be careful Wednesday, Thursday to not let fears and issues of faith or things that have haunted you in the past to haunt this new crop. Okay, so you will probably have it the heaviest as far as old feelings hitting you. And, a good example of this is if you suddenly think about your ex-girlfriend and you're in a relationship right now with someone, don't call her. Okay, don't call your ex-girlfriend. That is the old, Monsanto vibration. No offense to anyone, like coming back. So you might be tempted onto the wrong railroad track or down the wrong path. And that's true for everyone. You might have old haunts literally haunt you and try to haunt you back. So Aries planting seeds of productivity must let go of old karma and fears to move forward. Taurus. Taurus are planting seeds of new character. Me too. It's my birthday this week, May 9th, for those who want to know. So, new character. That means a brand new, shiny us. That means new behavior. So, we're laying down the groundwork for how we intend to behave all year. Now, we are manifestors, so we manifest year long. We're the one sign that manifests year. Everyone manifests all year long, but for Taurus, like, that's our job. Like, that's what we learn to do. So we're laying down the new railroad tracks for all of our manifestation. That is preparing for our annual crop or super crop. But what we must be clear about is our social karma. So don't let how things have gone in society in the past haunt you. Don't let what friends say haunt you. Don't let your thinking that you are expected to be something in society. Don't let that. Basically, you got to let go of any sort of karmic social obligation you feel like you have. If you have crops to share, great, but there is no karmic social obligation. Gemini! Gemini are actually planting new faith. So I think for Gemini, this is going to be a rocky week. You're going to have to take it day by day. Your goal is to stay in a state of faith and release boogeymen and release old things that might get in the way. So this is kind of an entire week of weeding your soul garden. You're weeding all week long. It's more weeding than anything for you, the most weeds in this season. And what you must be clear on also is you must emotionally not judge yourself for your career failures in the past, whether that's now or a past life or anything you regret. If you're an older Gemini, you can't be sitting there regretting you should have been there for your kids. You got to let go of any past success or failure. Even success can end up blurring your vision for the future. So just let your accomplishments, achievements, let the old resume go. Don't let the resume emotionally affect you. Cancer. Cancers are having a new social calling. They're laying down the tracks for where they plan to set up camp. And knowing Cancers, they're probably setting up a tent kitchen. Like, they're probably setting up a tent kitchen. Their camp is going to be a kitchen. They're going to feed everybody. But the point is that they're planting seeds to where they belong in society, what neighborhood they belong in, how they need to be valued, all that type of thing. So that's where their fresh crops are. But they have to be very clear that they will let go of past ignorances. Past ignorances are, oh, I once believed in this and I turned out to be wrong, and I once believed in that and I turned out to be wrong, and mom and dad's religion turned out to be wrong. So all this wrong turn of not knowing or being ignorant or having to wake up to truth, just let all that go. The moon in Pisces is like, you are creating a new philosophy, a new religion. Don't let any of the past misconceptions poison your tent kitchen in the world. Leo. Leo are having exciting times because they're planting the seeds to a whole new future. I think Leos are now ready to move on to a new future, move on to a new direction. They're ready to take that castle on the road and move the capital of their kingdom somewhere else. That's what's going to happen next month to the Sun in Gemini. They're going to move their kingdom capital. So they're really gearing up, Leos and Leo risings, for what their future is going to be. Really planting seeds to the future. Now here's the thing, Leo. Leos have a lot of issues with boundaries, okay? They have a lot of karma with boundaries, or they've crossed boundaries, or people have crossed their boundaries, or they didn't protect themselves, or they didn't trust themselves. All these times, basically, where they were trusting and they were wrong. So you can't let any of the old ghosts of having trusted and been wrong pollute these new future plans. You learned from the situation. Let it go. Okay, so you got to let all that go, not let it haunt you. But I think Leos are going to have some interesting sprouts about upcoming future attractions. Virgo. Virgo are planting seeds to a whole life purpose. Now, they may not realize that yet, or they may. But they're basically, very much like Leos, they're laying down the tracks for where their growth is going to be, what brings them meaning, what brings them purpose, what's the point of life anyway, that sort of thing. They're upgrading that now. They're saying life has much more importance. Here's why. Now, here's what you can't let get in the way of that. Relationship karma. So I don't care that the second husband was bad. I don't care that you were bad to the third husband. I don't care that your kids hate you. Whatever the issue you might feel or have felt with your relationships, don't let that come into your life purpose whatsoever. Your life purpose is not about these relationships. They came along for the ride. The ride is yours. Okay, so don't let karmic haunts of relationships interfere. And that's any relationship, boss, children, whatever. Libras. Libras are planting seeds to new boundaries. So caution to everyone, Libras are about to change the rule. If you knew you could always steal a potato chip off of their lunch tray, they may not go for that next week. Okay, like they may not think that's okay anymore. They're going to change their boundaries as far as what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And they're planting seeds to a new philosophy about what they let in and what they don't let in. And they're realizing that by setting up the rules correctly, other things fall into place. Now, here's what you can't let interfere. You can't let your old life get in the way. Your old job, your old colleagues, your old, maybe once upon a time you were too skinny, once upon a time you were too fat, once upon a time, whatever relationship karma you have to your body, none of that can play into and has no relevance to the boundaries you are creating, except that they taught you rights from wrongs. But they are not going to follow through. So forgive and forget the life you've had so far. Just let it all go. You have to let it go if you're going to generate this new paradigm. Scorpios. Scorpios are laying down the tracks for new relationships. And I've been monitoring Scorpios. They're doing a good job. They're laying down the tracks for sure. But they're not even fully aware that that's what's going on. I've noticed that a lot of Scorpios are still like, we'll see if it works. You know what I mean? Like so, but they're basically, that's new romantic partnerships, business partnerships, you name it. Now for that to work and be a very solid united front, Scorpios have got to let go of old heartbreaks. So there can be no heartbreaks. You got to give the world a second chance. If your heart was broken in the past, you can't bring that wisdom to the new relationship. It can't come. Okay? You've already gone through it. It's done. Don't bring it to the new marriage. Don't bring it to the new job. Don't bring it to the new customer base. Don't bring it. Okay. Sagittariuses. Sages are creating a whole new lifestyle. So they're planting a whole new life. And I know a couple of Sages, and that's exactly the case. Looking for apartments, looking for jobs, looking to change their life. One is like hitting the gym like crazy. So I see it happening. They're creating a new life. They're planting seeds. Basically, I always say Sages, are like basically, they're basically pirates. Like they show up and then they every now and then they switch islands that they're going to be on, and that's what's happening. Sages are going to go to a new island now and become the PR director for it. Now, for you to move to this new life without polluting it, you must not take any of your childhood baggage with you. You cannot take your childhood baggage to the new island. Okay, so none of it can be carried. That doesn't matter what your dad did to you, what your mom did to you, your first husband, what your kids, all that has to go, or it's going to pollute your new sprouts. Capricorn. Capricorn are really in a good place. They're planting seeds for their heart to really shine, for their heart to have what it wants. They're planting seeds for creativity, dreams, romance, anything under the heart shape. Counts right now. And that includes being a star or whatever. Now, the only way that you can do that is you cannot allow the old thinking to pollute these dreams. Do not let old thoughts, old attitudes, old conversations, don't replay old conversations, especially old conversations with old heartbreaks, okay? You got to have a clean slate when it comes to your thinking. Your mind must give everything a clean slate. Aquarius. Aquariuses are building basically new emotional security, which sounds kind of boring, but it's super important. If you don't have a good bed to sleep in at night, if you don't feel secure, if you don't feel safe, you will grow nothing in your soul garden. You will grow nothing. So they realize now that they need a better pot for their gumbo, that they need a better situation to nurture themselves, and they're planting those seeds. But here's the thing, when you are making this foundation, what I call the potting soil of your soul garden, you cannot bring in any of your old poverty consciousness, okay? No old poverty consciousness. No old consciousness of, I've been barely surviving for the last 7 years, or I've never paid what I'm worth, or I never feel I have enough to get the job done. That's all poverty consciousness. None of that can come. You must forgive and forget all debts that you owe yourself and others, okay? And you must build this new bed without those debts. Otherwise, they could pollute your crops. And then finally, the Pisces. Pisces are very affected. They are basically planning a whole new idea, a whole new schema, a whole new strategy for anything, job, life, romance, you name it. Once a Pisces the only solid part of a Pisces, because they're so emotional, is their mind is so solid and so planned. So they are basically reconstructing the plan, which allows them to reconstruct everything with the way they work. They're basically reconstructing the intellectual fishbowl. Now, for you to create a good fishbowl, Pisces, you must forgive and forget your past, the whole past. Okay, like you can't bring any shift from the past to this new thinking. It doesn't matter what you have or haven't or what you did when you were 20 or blah, none of it. That was all karma anyways. That was all clearing out your closets anyways. It had nothing to do with what you intended to do in this lifetime. So this new plan cannot be based on not being the old guy or not being the old girl. It has to be the plan of who you will be, not based on what you don't want to be and fear of recreating the past. So Pisces are making new plans. So I think this week is going to be an important week to some degree. It is a little slow, but I welcome that slowness. It's kind of like sitting back and watching the grass grow. You know what I mean? Like, so don't expect any, I think huge dramatic events. That is coming, but it's not happening now. This is the week to invest in what you want to manifest and day by day nurture that little plant and see it to a sprout this weekend. All right, and now finally on to my new segment, Good News. And now, here's some good news. North and South Korea are getting along. Isn't that interesting? I thought I'd point that out because I think we have a lot of negative publicity out there in the news. We're always threatening war. And I don't think this is any accident that North and South Korea are starting to talk now, and Kim Jong-un is kind of coming out of his closet and working with China and working with South Korea. And I had a lot of people writing me and telling me, I think, I'm worried about war. Are you worried about war with North Korea? And I had said the whole time, like energetically, no, I don't feel that that's the path. Now, knowing the history though, what's interesting to me is this is all the result, North and South Korea, of the old Cold War, if you don't know. In fact, what happened was after World War II, Russia had declared war on Japan and had entered into North Korea to the 38th parallel, and that was all plan of the alliance. And this is at the very end of World War II when everyone was focusing on Japan. So we ended up having a Soviet invested Northern Korea to the 38th parallel, and we had an American Western ally in the South, right? And then, of course, we know about the Korean War. It lasted between 1950 and 1953, which is, when I did the research, I was like, really? Only 3 years? Because watching MASH, like I thought it lasted 10 years, you know what I mean? Like, but no, MASH this season went on like, a whole 9 other years than the actual war did, which is funny, Hawkeye and that sort of thing. But interestingly enough, here we are with Uranus exiting Aries. And the last time Uranus was in Aries, moving into Taurus, was the beginning of World War II. So this is literally, in my opinion, good news because we have one of these World War II conflicts that was based on the grounded ego versus the winged ego. I don't even know if winged ego was an option back then. Only Mahatma Gandhi, I think, was the only one talking winged ego back in that one. And, this whole time we had stuck to this old ego paradigm, and now what we're seeing, here is Uranus and Taurus, we're seeing that old paradigm start to come apart. And I think that's good news. Something we should celebrate, something we should send gratitude to the earth because we don't have to make it about war. Now, I'm not a person that likes to talk politics. In fact, I always say policy, not politics. So policy, I think all countries need to get along. But I find what's really interesting is Kim Jong-un is a step 17 Capricorn. That's a Grand Master Capricorn. And that's actually pretty common for Grand Masters to be born into power, by the way, to be born kind of privileged or whatnot. But I find it very interesting because that's step 17. In the last 3 years, he had Pluto cross over his sun, which means that he was going through boundary issues and how to protect himself. And he was completely reinventing from start to end with Pluto crossing his sun. He had to really understand boundaries and reorganize them from the ground up. And what's really funny is it's kind of like in that 3-year span, he kind of like, went through everything from communist China all the way to the brink of nuclear war and then has now jumped into this possibility of peace. So you can see, like in just 4 years, how as Pluto crossed, how he has completely been. But I find it interesting because, why is this happening? I think just from a policy perspective, I think Donald Trump has scared the hell out of him. You know what I mean? Like, he's scared the hell out of everyone, right? But it's like, it's kind of interesting that fear kind of positions. And I also think, and this isn't very good news, but I think we need to be mindful of other hot spots in the world. I never really felt like we were going to have to worry about North and South Korea. And I pray and send light with this good news that this turns into a new alliance, and we can just start to heal that part of the world. So namaste to all the Koreans out there. I'm proud of you and your lineage. In other good news, in a similar effort, we are launching Love Fest Day Denver. This will be on May 20th, and this is an event to come together. We're looking for influencers. So if you're an influencer, you're a person who holds up the tent for the family, or you hold up the tent for your company, or you know who you are. We want to actually network with you. We want to support you. And we also want to hear from you as well. Why? Because we think the light needs to unite, and we think the light needs support. So we're going to do this Denver Love Fest. It's on Sunday, May 20th at the Mercury Cafe in downtown Denver. Cool, hippie, awesome place, great vibe. The woman who runs it is amazing. She's a cool Libra. And we're going to get together. We're having vendors there who are sharing products and services, local vendors. We're going to have a speaker. Our speaker is, Master Suho. And Master Suho actually is Korean, interestingly enough. I did not plan that. And she actually works for Brain Body Yoga, which is a chain of yoga. So we're going to hear some interesting new approaches to yoga and Tai Chi from her. We're also going to hear from Memory Lamfers. Pardon me, I'm not always good with names. She's releasing a new book called Yogi, which is really cool because what is the path of a yogi? How does one get on that path? So she's going to present her book. And then we have, like I said, several vendors, and yours truly will be speaking on how to manifest influence. So I'm going to give a little lecture on how to manifest your influence, how to charge up your electric charge. So we'd love to see you there. If you're flying in or traveling from out of the state, please email us at support@seriousjoy.com because I want to have a little dinner with out-of-towners and spend a little extra time with you guys. I can't pay for the dinner, but I'd like you to join me. So we're going to do that as well, so let us know. And I think it's going to be a great time. We will be telecasting this event in the Namaste Today Club and sharing it to, of course, our oneness.care Love Fest page as well. So you can watch if you're at home. We'd love to have your energy with us. In more good news, Practical Mystics and Julie Day has released a 5-part video series on abundance. And I got to tell you, nearly the number one question I get is either for love in a chart or abundance. So people want to manifest abundance. They want more than they need. They want to have money that works for them. Julie has figured this out spiritually, and her team of Practical Mystics can help you. To find out more about her class, visit soulmart.net. And then, Serious Joy! I'm so excited. My own service turns 1 year old, so to speak, on May 20th. And so I'm launching Season 2 of Serious Joy. That's where I've been so preoccupied is writing the new season of content. I'm going to have some subtle changes going on. And right now, if you're a Serious Joy member, you are enjoying my Secrets to Manifestation series. So this week, we're going to go through steps 7, 8, 9, and 10. These are the important steps. So if you're not already a subscriber, come give it a try. You will love it. It will help you day by day. I am always with you. Visit seriousjoy.com. And then lastly, we have a little hub on the internet. We actually are using Facebook. Who would have thought? But Facebook took that place. We have a Facebook club where anyone from anywhere in the world can join and take part. We're community. As a vendor, you can post your products. If you need prayer, post for that. If you want to share good news with us, come post that. Anyone is welcome as long as you're in your heart and you're always compassionate. Visit namastetoday.club. All right, my friends. Well, if you have any good news that you would like me to share, I'm happy to do it. And I'm grateful for those who have reached out so far. If you have some good news or you want to collaborate with us on good news, email us at goodnews@seriousjoy.tv. Well, friend, I hope you have a wonderful, fertile week of planting your new seeds. Don't let that karmic toxin from the past get involved. And I'll be back here 1 week from now when we talk about the new moon in Taurus. Until then, remember I love you, and to live, love, be.
joy.